Okay, so now that we learned how to apply these two models, let's move on and do something else. So we are very good now, or we are well experienced in finding the performance measures. And then you can do this. You can design your capacity, meaning that you will decide on the number of servers in order to achieve specific performance measures. For example, we have already learned how to calculate performance measures given certain number of servers, let's say 3, and arrival rate and service rate. What if we found that number of people waiting in line is too high for us? So we just add them by 1, right? And we can do that, we can follow this procedure. However, we can follow also another procedure, or we can use another approach, which is the total cost approach, where we decide on a number of servers to minimize the total cost. And what that total cost? We also have mentioned that in the introduction, that the total costs that are relevant to our waiting line system are two. We have the waiting cost, so how much it costs you to let your customers wait, and we have the server cost. Mathematically, we can show that like that. Okay, so total cost is CWLS plus CS times M. Why that? Because CW is the cost of customer waiting. So you multiply that by the number of people waiting in the system, right? This will be the total, the cost of all customers waiting in your system. And then you add the server cost is what? It's CS is how much you pay for every server. For example, this can be the hourly wage or the daily wage that you pay your employees, and you multiply it simply by the number of servers. Okay, so this is how we're going to find the total cost. And the first application for the total cost model is this, that we will be comparing two service situations and how to compare them using the total cost. So given one option, we find the total cost. Given the other option with different parameters, we find the other total cost, and then we choose, of course, the option that gives us the lower cost. Okay, so this will be our first application that's coming next. All right, so as an application for the total cost model, and this is the first type of application, right? We are given already services with predefined capacities. We are not finding the capacity ourselves. All what we're doing is that we are comparing two or more options. In this case, it's two options. So here we have a tire company. They want to hire a new mechanic, and they have two options. They can either go for a mechanic that has a limited experience, and they can pay him $14 per hour. And this guy can serve 3 customers per hour or 3 cars per hour. While the other option is a mechanic with more experience. Of course, they have to pay this guy higher, right? So they pay him $20 per hour. And this guy, because he's more experienced, he can serve 4 cars per hour. Right? It makes sense. So, and we are given an assumption that customers are arriving at the rate of 2 customers per hour. So that's, you can guess, this is our lambda. And the company assigns a customer waiting cost, $30 per hour. This is a really very complex quantifying method that we're not going to discuss here. But you have to keep in mind that this is not an easy parameter to have. All right. So what do we have in this case? We are given CW in this case here, right, which is 30. We have lambda. So whether we go for option 1 or option 2, CW the same, lambda is the same. But what would change is this. CS is $14 in this option, and it's $20 in the other option. And mu also changes. While here mu is equal to 3, I'm going to write them in a more neat way in the second slide, don't worry. And this one, mu equal to 4. Okay, so I'm going to summarize all these parameters in the next slide, and then we start the solution. Okay, so here I'm going to show you the two options in a comparative way. That's why I split my slide into two. In the first one, we have option one, where the mechanic has limited experience, and then here we have option two on the right-hand side. So what do we know? As we have already extracted from the given in the previous slide, that first m equal 1 for option 1 because it's only one mechanic. CS is $14, mu 3, CW 30. It's the same for both options, but I'm going to write them down here in both sides so that everything will be clear for you. And lambda is 2. So since we have lambda, since we have mu, I'm going to show the ratio here because we're going to use it. In the option 2, also m is equal to 1. Is it always necessary to compare two options that have the same number of servers? Of course not. We can always compare a situation where we have one server here, two servers there, or two servers here, three servers there. It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. It's exactly the same logic. Okay, so what else do we know about option 2? We have CS is $20 compared to $14 in the previous one. Mu is also 4 compared to the previous one, which makes sense. And CW and lambda are the same. All right. So also here, let me note down lambda over mu, 0.5. So let's start finding the total cost. Remember that total cost is CWLS plus CS times M. So to find LS, I need to find LQ. And that's why I found LQ for the first option. Why I'm using this formula? Because I have already identified that option 1, like option 2, are single servers. So I use the formulas for the single model, okay, single server model. Okay, and I get LQ equal to 1.33 cars. Now I can find let me just compare that, and finding LQ for the second option, we can find that LQ will be 0.5 in this case. Why this? Because mu is different. Lambda is the same, but mu is different, and we get 0.5. All right. Now from LQ, we can find LS. So LS from the basic relationship, it's LQ plus the ratio. And we have two cars waiting in the system in the first option. Let's see what happens in the second option. Of course, you can guess that from the LQ. LS now is exactly half, one car. You see what an experienced mechanic can do for you. With only one car more in the service rate, you can decrease your LS by half. So in the first option, now we are ready to find the total cost because now we have all the parameters. So it's 30 times 2 LS plus CS, which is 14 times M, which is 1. So that's $74. While in the other option, it's 30 times 1 plus 20 times 1. So that's 50. So what happens here? You can see that, yes, for the more experienced, we are paying him $20. So we are increasing the server cost from 14 to 20. But look what we are able to do for the waiting cost. We are decreasing it by half. Okay, and that would net our gain by and to go for $50, right? So the difference is $24. So the conclusion is, of course, we go for option 2. Okay, so that was an illustration of using the total cost model in order to compare two design options.